For cheap gold, items and other boosts for Diablo 4, visit aoeah.com. Check out the link in the description, you get 3% off with the code ARIAD. Hello and welcome everybody. In this guide, I'll introduce you to my Quill Volley endgame build, which does not need any mystical items, but optionally can use them. It has some massive damage and it is perfect for running the infernal hordes or killing bosses fast. In the pit, you will be able to run up to about 110, which is enough to upgrade your glyphs to 100. I will also present to you my high-end build, who can run the pits to the limit, but it is much more effort. So if you look for an affordable build who can do anything relevant in the game, this one may fit to you. First, the skill tree. Advantages Quill Volley gets maxed out, of course, since it is our main attack. I play Vortex on my right mouse button, which is very comfortable to pull enemies. I've seen some other players trigger the skill by a rune word, but I prefer to use it manually, allowing me to cast it even more frequently. The offensive buff Measured Ravager is very important, because it significantly increases damage and boosts the resource generation. Plus, we can charge at targets when attacking. Next, I use Reinforced Armored Hide, as its 100% block chance will greatly scale the redirected force aspect, providing another great damage boost. I've made a few subtle adjustments to the passive skills. Now, nearly everything is focused on damage. The key passive is Prodigy's Tempo. This will make us able to use our powerful buffs very frequently. A crucial choice is also the Spirit Halls. Take the Jaguar at the top, as it delivers powerful damage spikes, especially when hitting larger groups. At the bottom we pick the Gorilla, which keeps us unstoppable most of the time and increases our resolve. In the Paragon system I still use the same boards, but I've swapped two glyphs. The build now runs with Colossal, Talon, Managerist, Spirit and Canny. The damage bonuses from the legendary nodes are all very important, and for the Viscous Shield node we want to build up as much barrier as possible to maximize its effect. While leveling up, focus on attaching all the boards, activating the glyphs and getting the legendary nodes. You can initially skip some rare and magical nodes and maximize attribute points for glyphs later, when everything is set up. Now let's talk about the gear. We use Harmony of Ebevaka, which makes our Quill Volley have three types: Eagle, Jaguar and Gorilla. The latter doesn't show up in the stats while you're in town, but it will when you're in a combat zone. So this helm provides up to 90% increased damage, which is quite powerful. I'm using the rune word Litke here, which grants me a barrier from the Earthen Bulwark. Since I always hold down the shift key when fighting, this works very well, and the bulwark is always up. I can still move easily as I charge at enemies with the main attack and can use the Jaguar ultimate every few seconds. In the chest piece you'll find the second rune word, Poklak. In combat it regularly triggers the Barbarian's Challenging Shout, and we'll also have 100% uptime on this. Plus, the aspect of Might provides additional damage reduction. Dexterity and life are nice to have, but we also need armor and resistances, and for the tempering, barrier generation or vortex size is useful. On the gloves we play the Moonrise aspect. Unfortunately, I'm missing some attack speed here. Next is the T-Bolts. A greater affix on maximum resource is recommended. We want to end up with at least 275 vigor in total, more about that in a moment. On the boots we play Duelist's aspect. In that slot we can add missing armor or resistances. Otherwise, movement speed is very comfortable, of course. For the Rod of Kepeleke, the greater affix on maximum resource is significant again, and its unique effect at the bottom. Your staff should not have less than 2.6%, ideally it has a full 3%. Each resource point grants 3% increased damage when the effect triggers. At 300 vigor, that's 900% increased damage, with a guaranteed critical strike. Another key part of the damage combo is the Banished Lord's Talisman, which triggers an incredible number of overpower hits. If we hit 275 maximum resource, one cycle is just enough to trigger the overpower effect. The Ring of the Midnight Sun is also important, as it shortens the cycle by restoring up to 50% of the spent resources immediately. You'll want a high value here, your ring should have at least 45%. The remaining resources will generate quickly, thanks to the resource generation from Ravager. For the second ring, we can slot in one final damage aspect. I use the aspect of Redirected Force here, which will boost up by the Armored Hide skill. However, there are also other strong options, which I'll show at the end. In my setup, I need resistances on the ring. If you play Tyraels later on, you can put lots of resistances away, of course. In combat, my routine looks like this. I jump into the crowd with the Jaguar ulti, pull them together with Vortex and start attacking. I pop the Ravager and Armored Hide buffs to boost damage, and the Earthen Bulwark also is up when fighting. Every 15th attack triggers the accumulated damage of the last 0.5 seconds, resulting in massive damage spikes, especially when hitting a good timing with the buffs. Now for some alternatives you can try out. The Unyielding Hits aspect offers a high damage potential. An Ancestral two-handed weapon only has about 600 base damage, so plus 1500 is roughly a 3.5 times increase in weapon damage, and so in your total damage as well. That is quite strong, but it's a bit tricky to reach, because you need lots of armor, and you can't slot the aspect on a two-handed weapon or amulet, as we need the uniques there. We can only put the aspect on ring or gloves, where it provides a bonus of 30% of the armor at max. So you would need 5k armor to get plus 1500 weapon damage. When getting to about 2000 armor, the aspect becomes worthwhile yet, because it has a similar damage increase to other alternatives like Aspect of Adaptability. By the way, the Aspect of Disobedience is a great option to push your armor value in that case. A Harlequin Crest also becomes an option here. The 4 skill points alone don't provide nearly as much damage compared to Ebevaka's 90%, but it also adds armor, life and maximum resource, which all further increase the damage. So if you're going for the armor variant, a Shaco is definitely a valid option. Another perfect fit for this build is Tyrael's Might, which provides great damage reduction and eliminates all worries about resistances. Tyraels doesn't have an armor affix, but you can still get a significant armor boost by socketing skulls in your jewelry. So adaptability and unyielding hits are also two aspects you could play with instead of Moonrise or Redirected Force. You could also tend to pick the aspects where you have the best rolls so far. Overall, the armor variant with a Harlequin Crest provides even more damage once you have the right items. But for even more damage, check out my high-end version of this build coming in the next video. I'll say goodbye now, take care and may the loot be with you.
Follow me. Thanks. Goodbye.